Hi, I'm Elena Greco. I am a holistic life and creativity coach. I'm also a singer, writer, and producer. I live in New York City, right by Central Park, and I work with people all over the world. Today, I'm going to talk about handling the special challenges of performers. There's nothing in the world like performing. People who've never performed can't know the incredible exhilaration, expansion, and gratification that it gives us. If you're a performer, you live to perform. But being a performer poses demands that no other professional has to face. With an instrument, that is both organic and sentient, there are unique challenges. One, performing requires that we make ourselves vulnerable in a very public way. Two, it's a profession filled with rejection. Three, in modern times, it's very much a business, and the people who decide our fate professionally, if we choose to let them, are interested only in what sells, sometimes with no eye or concern for authentic creative expression or genuine talent. Four, we have to pay bills and attend to a lot of mundane things at the same time that we serve our art, which demands a great deal of us. Five, we have to maintain ourselves as healthy vehicles for creativity and for life, both physically and psychologically, which is often a great challenge due to the nature of the profession. I want to focus in this lesson on that last item, being a healthy vehicle for creativity. There's a lot of information readily available about being an entrepreneur, which every performer is now, and on advancing your career. There's plenty out there about developing your team of support professionals and how to land auditions. But there's not a lot out there for performers about developing yourself as a human being or about maintaining your physical and mental health or why you would care about those things if you're a performer. There's also not much practical help for some specific issues related to performing. So let's take a look at those things. An opera singer had to withdraw in the middle of his debut performance at the Metropolitan Opera. For those who aren't opera devotees, debuting at the Met is the pinnacle of an opera singer's dream. Withdrawing in the middle of that performance is something you would not ever want to do. This tenor was in the throes of a divorce, and the resultant emotion and turmoil caused his throat muscles to tighten so much that he suddenly couldn't sing, standing on the stage of the Met with thousands of eyes on him. Performers who appear at the top level of the opera world have trained themselves for years to perform in the face of obstacles. Yet the singer could not force his body not to respond to the emotion caused by this distressing situation in his life. In order to bring your whole being freely, authentically, and creatively to your performing so that you can create inspiring performances, you need to be healthy in mind and body. And you need to know how to bring yourself into balance when life is chaotic. To have a fulfilling life as a performer, your performing should have meaning for you, should have purpose. Why do you perform? If you can frame that as an intention for your life, staying in touch with that purpose will nurture you and keep you going even when things get tough. And they will get tough. You need tools to keep you healthy in mind, body, and spirit. Let's talk about those. Having a purpose or intention for your performing will change things for you. What do I mean by intention? Simply put, it's a goal fueled by our desire, but with the strength of our will and commitment behind it. An intention is a focused, specific goal to which we commit ourselves. Remember, language is powerful. The words we speak, not only to others, but to ourselves, shape and ultimately create our life experiences. Be sure to word your intention about your performing so that it isn't too specific and can include things you can't foresee. That way, while carrying that intention alive within you, you're allowing the wonderful unpredictability of the world to assist you in your intention. Some examples might be, my intention is to bring inspiration to people through my performing. Or my intention is to be a vehicle for bringing the works of musical theater alive. Or my intention is to bring the works of female Renaissance composers to the public. Or my intention is to use the power of my humor to give people comfort and relief. I believe that the healthier we are in body and mind, and the more abilities we develop, the more we have to offer, and the more freedom of expression we have, and the more complete and compelling we are as creative artists. Performing might be what you live for, but please don't neglect to develop and experience other areas of your life as fully as you can, because in those other areas you just might find the gold that makes you a great artist. If you study the lives of many of the great artists, quite a few of them had very difficult or unusual lives. The fire of adversity made them the great artists they were. I'm not suggesting that suffering is a good thing, but simply that the life of a performer needs to contain all the elements of life, not just rehearsing and auditioning and performing. The fuller your life, the more you have to draw from in your creative work. I want to address a couple of health issues that relate specifically to performers. And although I don't have time to address them in this short video, do learn as much as you can about keeping yourself healthy and well, physically and mentally. I have other resources available on that topic if you're interested. Just drop me an email. I recommend that you create your own unique health plan, one which promotes vitality, resilience, and longevity. You are the instrument. Your body and mind are the vehicle through which creativity flows, and through which the energy flows that reaches the audience. If you're a performer, you know what an insufficient amount of sleep does to your ability to perform. And if you use your voice in your performing, the deleterious effect of not sleeping is even more severe. It can leave you with no voice. If you tend to have trouble sleeping, you might also have a fear of not sleeping the night before a performance, an anxiety which also makes it harder to go to sleep. I recommend creating a sleep kit that contains items that you've found to be helpful in sleeping, perhaps certain remedies, an essential oil, or a favorite book, and maybe even a list that reminds you what to do when you can't sleep. Having that sleep kit will help alleviate some of the fear of not sleeping, and it will also help you get to sleep. Singers, actors, and comedians have an even greater burden in remaining physically healthy than their fellow performers in other genres, because the voice, their primary instrument, without which they can't do their job, is biological. In order both to alleviate the fear of what might go wrong and to keep the voice healthy, I recommend creating a voice kit, which might include remedies and supplements that you use to recover quickly from throat issues, along with your favorite throat sprays and lozenges, and even a short list of what to do in case of vocal health issues, in case you forget when you're a bit anxious. Having a voice kit means you don't have to worry so much about your voice. Being prepared is like having insurance. You have it so you don't have to worry about what might happen in the future. I want to talk now about some specific issues related to performing. Part of your mental health plan should include what you're going to do to rebound when you don't get a gig, or you have a bad audition, or a performance goes badly, or a critic pans your performance. Those unfortunate things are a part of the performing life, and they can throw us for a loop if we're not prepared. Your plan might include calling a certain person for support, walking in nature, going to your favorite restaurant for a night out, or reminding yourself of your intention for performing. Everyone's unique, and you need to find your unique method of regaining your equilibrium when you have these experiences. If it's part of your plan, one you can easily access, you won't have to remember at a time when you're upset what to do. No one likes to cancel a performance. We worry that if we do, no one will ever hire us again. We're convinced that this particular performance will make or break our reputation. Most of all, this is a thing we love, the thing that makes us feel alive, and we really, really don't want to cancel it. But there are times when we really should cancel. If there's a possibility that singing with your bad throat could damage your voice, you absolutely have to cancel. If you're really sick and you're likely to turn in a poor performance that could damage your reputation, you have to cancel. If you're too sick to get out of bed, you have to cancel. You might want to wait until the last possible moment to make that decision in the hope that something miraculous will happen and you'll be able to perform after all. What if you really do get better tomorrow? You'll have given up an opportunity. You want to wait. Don't do it. The sooner you can let the producer or director know that you won't be able to perform, the less stress they'll have to bear, and the easier time they'll have of getting a replacement for you. The later that you wait, the more they will resent you, and the less chance they'll hire you again. So make that decision as soon as you can, and handle it with grace and professionalism. There are times when the day of the performance comes and we just don't want to do it. We're tired, we're sad, we just don't feel up to it. But we have a performance to do. At times like those, we need to remember our intention for performing that I talked about earlier. It's a good idea to have that sentence or statement of your intention for performing printed out and kept in a place where you can easily see it. Also, there's an exercise coming up later in this lesson that helps with performance anxiety that also helps with getting the energy up if that's what you need to do. And now we come to the part you might have been waiting for, performance anxiety. Let's look at 5 ways to neutralize the effects of performance anxiety. First, it's absolutely normal to get nervous before a performance and have some of the physical manifestations of anxiety, such as heart palpitations, sweating, muscle weakness, muscle contraction, need to urinate, dry mouth, and shaking, or the mental manifestations such as memory issues and panic. When we stand in front of a group of people and have a fear of being judged, and who doesn't, we will likely experience some of those symptoms. But they don't have to be a hindrance. In fact, those manifestations of anxiety, which are the effect of a huge rush of adrenaline, have the potential to create a more inspiring performance than if you didn't have them once you learn to harness the energy behind them. Once you recognize them as a prelude to a good performance, rather than something to worry about or avoid, and immediately focus on one of the 5 following techniques, they won't be such a problem. Rather than focusing on the physical symptoms and trying to change or eliminate them, try focusing on something larger, which is the perspective behind your performing. Once you do that, the physical symptoms are not such a hindrance. That's because the perspective is largely what causes the physical symptoms. Remember your intention for performing that we talked about earlier? Focus on that. Knowing and remembering why you're performing and what you intend to accomplish through your performance can help greatly reduce your anxiety and symptoms. When you read children a bedtime story, are you worried about being judged? Probably not. What's your goal? Perhaps it's to entertain them, to capture their interest, to give them pleasure, maybe to help lull them to sleep. Your focus is on what you're doing for them. It's not on yourself or how good your performance is in reading the story, or how they might react or judge you. This is part of the trick then, changing your focus from being the seen to being the seer, from being the judged to being the entertainer, to being the giver of an experience to your audience. Next, think about someone like Maria Callas. Could anyone have been more judged? Can you imagine putting yourself in her shoes, standing on a stage in front of thousands to sing incredibly demanding music at every performance, knowing that many were going to judge, even to boo and catcall during your performance, and that you were going to be judged harshly in the press the very next day all over the world? If you read anything Callas wrote or the interview she gave, you get a pretty good idea that when she stepped on the stage, she gave herself completely to the music. becoming totally the servant of the music with her awareness undiverted from that purpose. And in that way, she transformed her performance into one that moved, even electrified, the audience. That's another way to overcome performance anxiety. That is, to become the servant of the material and focus intensely on the importance of what you're conveying. If you're a singer, for example, you could give yourself completely to the music and the composer's intention so that the music lives through your recreation of it. This next exercise is one that was the most helpful to me in performing. I used to have anxiety about having performance anxiety. This totally handled that. I want you to close your eyes. Visualize an upcoming performance in as much detail as you possibly can. If you know the venue, imagine that you're on that stage and see the details of the curtain or architecture and the smells and other sensory details that you know or imagine will be there. You're there. Now imagine you're coming on stage and you're having the symptoms of performance anxiety that bother you. If you're a flutist, maybe your chin gets slippery with sweat. If you're a pianist, maybe your hands shake. If you're a singer, maybe your breathing muscles shake and get weak. You get the idea. Now imagine you're performing successfully with these symptoms. You're having the symptoms and you're performing well. If you do this daily before the performance, you won't have to dread the symptoms because you know they won't stop you. And you just might have a great performance. Now I'm going to share a secret with you. There's a quick, simple exercise that can reduce performance anxiety effectively, very quickly. Amazingly, it can also rev you up a bit when you can't quite find the energy for a performance. It's particularly useful right before you go on stage, when the symptoms are at their highest. This exercise releases excess adrenaline and its related symptoms and calms your nervous system. It counters that huge rush of adrenaline that occurs before you walk on stage. So do this. Stand comfortably with your arms dangling loosely by your sides. Go up slightly on the balls of your feet so that your heels are just off the ground. It doesn't need to be much. You're not standing on tiptoe. The balls of your feet are securely on the ground. Now bounce up and down on the balls of your feet. If you have bad knees, don't worry. You can do this without bending your knees. With every bounce down, hiss quickly and forcefully. That is, say an S with a lot of air behind it, as though the bounce is forcing all your air out with this hiss, like this. To recap, standing easily, move your weight to the balls of your feet. Raise your heels very slightly. Bounce quickly on the balls of your feet. As you come down, not quite letting the heels touch the ground, hiss quickly and forcefully. That's all. So the next time you have a performance coming up or have a fear of having performance anxiety, first, recognize that the symptoms can enhance your performance if you don't resist them. Instead of worrying that you might have anxiety symptoms, instead focus 1. On being the seer and not the seen, or on being the entertainer and not the judged. 2. On what you're giving to the audience. And 3. On serving the material you're presenting. And to address the physical symptoms, 4. Visualize doing the performance while being nervous. And 5. Do the bouncing exercise when you're getting ready to take the stage. If you put all these together, you might find that your performance anxiety evaporates, or at least that it no longer affects your performance negatively. You don't have to dread it anymore. Thank you for listening and watching. I hope this was useful to you and your work. And if you'd like to send me a question or learn more about what I do, or explore the possibility of working with me, you can see my details at the end of this video. Whether it's through your words, through the sound of your voice, through your movement, through your humor. You have the creative power to change and uplift hearts and minds and to inspire people. The world needs you.